Hello, welcome back to the ministry. This is Taj McCameron, and today we're doing the review of Deja Vu. Now, if you recall, I did a note or a quick little video where I talked about Deja Vu, and the Lord brought me back to it. And you know how I know He brought me back to it? Me and my dad were talking the other day, and he said something to me. And when he said this, I was like, okay, I see you. I get it. You let me know this is something I need to talk about. Furthermore, if you recall in that word, I talked about monitoring spirits, right? Well, got me a little one right now. It's fly to keep flying around in here. And if you potentially see it, ignore it. I'm going to try to ignore it myself because it's big. And it keep landing on soft things, so I can't kill it yet. So when I say I'm agitated, I'm a little bit agitated. But if I catch it, it's going to die. I don't play with flies. I don't play with bugs. If I catch you, you're dead. Some people are like, oh, shoot, fly. Let me just put you out the window. Let me. If I catch you, you're dead. That's how I treat monitoring spirits. If I spiritually catch you, I'm sending the fire of Jesus Christ back against you. And the spirit in operation within you must die. I don't play about that. So since we are here in all of these confirmations of this word, let's begin with the film. Lord Jesus, I pray in the name of Jesus that you give me the fullness of the revelation, because you obviously brought me back here for a reason. Okay? So, let's begin. You want me to start with a little bit of revelation? Let's start with a little bit of a recap. So, I did a word where I talked about your kingdom spouse was looking into you. I did that like a few months back, but the Lord gave me a different revelation like a few weeks ago, and I did a little short word on my resting day, and in that He gave me a backup that brought me to the revelation of this film. And it's funny because this movie had come on about 3 months ago, but I only caught the end of it. And I was like, and I let it go. But that day when He brought the revelations behind that message, I was like, there's something more to this. So I knew I wanted to watch the film, but I knew that now was the time to watch it, because it's almost like God systematically set this thing up, okay? And He always does. That the way that He set it up, yesterday I was able to watch half the movie. He's been doing that with me lately. I don't know why. Well, I'll watch half of the film and my tablet will cut off, and then I'll have to watch the other half at another point in time. And I'm like, I don't know what that is, but I got the notes for this. So this is going to be a duality, meaning it can go both ways in some ways, because some of y'all are the stander and you stand for your kingdom spouse, and some of y'all are the female that's operating in the opposite, meaning you are the prodigal. So it could be both ways. And I'm going to let the Lord unwrap this the way He desires, because I was intrigued as to what He was going to do with this, because I wasn't originally going to do this film, because I was like, well, we can see what the understanding is. But God be like, let me explain. I'll be like, let's do this. So the film starts where everyone is happy. It's a montage of people and passengers on a cruise. And they're preparing the board for this cruise, right? So, with that being said, some of you, oh God, let's start there. You showing, oh, he already starting. I had a dream, and this dream was about 4 years ago. In it, I remember this clearly. I was running to get to the separation point, meaning where I was from where I was about to go. I had to catch a ship. It was like a freighter, some type of like, not really a cruise liner, but it was not even a yacht. It was a smaller boat, right? So it would have been like one of them day cruise boats that it's only got about 2-3 tiers to it, and it's going to take you. But I was in the route to get to this boat, and I remember I was running to get to it or catch this boat and catch it before it left. Okay. But I'm also going to talk about this. God's given me a couple dreams with waterliners in it. Okay. And with these waterliners, whether it was a cruise boat or a military naval ship, the cruise boat or this smaller yachtish type thing, I had to catch it just before I was leaving. Some of you or your spouse have been in a season where you're trying to get out of this thing, meaning you're preparing to walk out of a season, okay? And God just He dropped this in my spirit. You're preparing to walk out of a season. And as you're preparing to walk out of a season, there's certain things that either need to be tied up on your or their end, okay? They need to be closed off, stopped, finished, what have you. So as this is occurring, you are preparing for this. Now, the preparation is not for the close. The preparation is for the new thing. The montage represents happiness, your celebration, your the things that you're about to walk into, the things that you're crossing over into, all of these types of things. I'm being reminded of when the come on, God. I'm being reminded of when, dang, I'm reminded of both of those. Okay. Which one you want me to do first? Number one, I'm seeing Jesus when he was up. Some of you, as the kingdom wives, were recently in the spirit with God. Jesus was sitting on a mount. I don't know which mountain that was. And he said he was going to meet the disciples as they crossed over. What were they crossing over in? A boat. Oh, okay. Come on here, God. They were crossing over in a boat. These people were in a boat preparing to go to a place, a cruise. They had military sailors on there. So it's almost like, come on now. It's, remember in Daniel where the Prince of Persia was fighting the angel Michael? Well, actually, it was Gabriel that got fought, and he had to call in Archangel Michael. God, come on, put this word together. Some of you are preparing to go on the boat. Some of you were preparing to cross over. Some of you are in a phase of crossing over, and in this crossing over, okay, the enemy is trying to desperately stop the crossover point. You're happy, you're celebratory, you're ready for this thing. Everybody was on the docks happy. Okay? Next. Let me finish what I was saying. So, you're on the docks, everything, you're all happy, but you're crossing over. Jesus was on the mountain praying. You have been in the state of mind of praying on the mountain, but they were on the boat. In conjunction to this, and these are the only two stories that talk about this, Jonah got on a boat, but he was headed in the wrong direction. This is why his storm came up. Both scenarios, the disciples started off to go where they were going, and it was clear skies, blue skies, everything was good. Jonah, he got on the boat. It was clear skies, blue skies, everything was copacetic. Jonah was going in a direction he should not have been going. Jesus hadn't gotten on the boat yet, but they started to cross over. Come on, bring this together. Trust and Obedience Ministry just recently did a word called you're a water walker or something like that. This is a sink or swim type moment, right? So you brings us right on back to the boat thing. You have to trust that the thing that God's sending to carry you over is not going to sink. Okay? They were midway, right? Now, in that scenario, Jesus came across the water. God's protecting you and you get on the water with this thing. But the storm comes in. Jonah, the storm came in. Now, I'm also reminded of the fact that there was a moment in the boat where Jesus was on a boat. This is two different scenarios. In being on the boat in this situation, he was sleeping. When Jonah was woken up, he had been sleeping as well, resting in this place. Some of you have been in a state of rest because of the fact that you know that your blessings are coming. So you've been just getting instructions from God, just like Jesus was sitting up on the mount. But the storm came in. How the storm come in? Here's the man. He's standing on the dock of his boat, and he's doing the checks on the cars because there are vehicles on this boat. A lot of you, God has given you a brand new vehicle. Maybe he gave you a series of vehicles. Vehicles represent businesses, ministries, and things. They're all being held in one containment area in this movie. Your vehicle is protected, but the enemy wants to destroy it. I don't know who released this word. I don't know whether it was Deani Neves or Megan Michelle, but they talked about, might not have been either one of those. They talked about the fact that your vehicle was potentially going to be under some form. It was Queen Alita. That's what it was. She talked about the vehicle, meaning your ministry, that the vehicle was going to be under attack. And in it, she said that the vehicle, you were going to be trying to drive your vehicle. Somebody was going to grab it and try to spin it out of control. And here in the film, the guy sees this car, and all of a sudden the radio starts playing. What was the song it started playing? Don't Worry, Baby. God's trying to tell you there's things that are starting to pop up, little things, little annoyances, little monitoring spirits, little things. Even the enemy is trying to bring in spells and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, don't worry, baby. I got you. Jesus was walking across that water. He was coming to that boat. He was coming. He was coming to that boat. So he puts the cigarette out and he checks the cars. So as he's putting the cigarette out, the montage continues. Because when he's checking the cars, he see the keys in the car, the one that is playing the music. Keys. The vehicle carries a key. Every vehicle, and the Lord's reminded me of something that happened to my mama when I was a kid. My mama used to have was it a Saturn my mama had at the time? I think it was a Saturn. My dad had bought a Saturn. It was a gray Saturn that he had. That particular day, she took, now don't be doing no foolishness like this. She took a key that she had for her car. But she was talking to me. She went, parked, came back. She was coming back to the vehicle, right? When we were coming back to the car, she goes to put the key in the car and unlocks the door. But when she unlocks the door, she notices, this ain't my car. Then she turned and she recognized that her car was sitting either in front of or behind the vehicle. Exact same model. Now, here I am sitting there thinking to myself, even now, I'm like, so they making keys that open. Her car keys shouldn't have opened that car, I don't think. But when you're a child of God, you have a master key. God he dropped that in my spirit right there. I don't know who that's for. Anyway, montage continues. So a lot of y'all are still in that phase of God saying it's celebratory time. Go. It's the green light. It's the thing. Some of y'all have been wondering why it's taking so long for you to cross over. God knows a storm. And he sees it. And God's having me insert this here. The other night, it was supposed to thunderstorm. I was sitting on this couch. Me and my dad were sitting here watching out this very window. And it was a storm. But the storm was not here. We were waiting for it to come because we heard the thunder. We heard the lightning. We even saw the clouds in the sky. But it never came and hit where we were. It was over there somewhere. But it was within eyeshot distance of where that storm was. You're in a season where the storm isn't supposed to hit you. But the enemy is desperately trying to convince you with false evidence appearing real that the storm is supposed to hit you. Continuing. So the boat, everybody's enjoying themselves. They get ready to leave. They ain't even got that far across the water. Remember, the disciples and Jonah and the people on his boat, neither one of them had gotten that far out on the water. Jesus could still see the boat while he was up on the mountain. He hadn't even made it fully across the water yet. It was about halfway, about third way across the water. They were enjoying themselves. And then, kaboom. Deja Neves released a word not too long ago called 1, 2, 3. Boom. No, Dana Ray said that in the part of her word, but at the end of one of Deja Neves' words, she talked about the boom. Some of y'all have been under major warfare attack, and I'm going to put this here. I recently, in the past 2 weeks, have been under a weird warfare attack in my mind, my body. I had something come up on me that I was dealing with, and I was like, what the heck is this? But the Lord showed me how to solve the issue, and I kept it moving. I stayed in the presence of God, didn't move me not one bit. It just annoyed the heck out of me because I had to deal with it. Much like these monitoring little fly things. So with that being said, you have not moved from your post. When God says stand still, as according to 2 Chronicles 20, you shall see the salvation of the Lord if ye stand still. You've been standing still. The enemy been trying to move you desperately. You stood still. And I'm being reminded of the ministry word that Julia Whitaker released the other day saying, don't come down off the mountaintop. When she was referring to the reference in the Bible about Ezra when Sanballat was trying to get him to come off the wall. There are things that are happening that is trying to get you to come off the wall. And I recently did a word about the watchman and the word, the watchman word, you know, the one with the woman the binoculars. You are the one that have been sitting on the ramparts up there, Habakkuk 2 and 2 in it. Habakkuk 2 and 1, Habakkuk 2 and 2. And you've been sitting up there. So the enemy's trying to do one last fatal blow, but see, it's going to blow back in his face. Okay? So the boat blew up. Kaboom. Your enemy is trying desperately to destroy your mode of transportation to cross over. Let me tell you something that is happening right now if you weren't aware of it. Flights are one of the most imperative ways that a lot of people get across anywhere. Aside from boats, they're boats, trains, planes, cars, vehicles. Planes get you the farthest distance fastest. It's a season of taking off. There is something going on at the airports. Not just physically. Flight delays and all this type of confusion, cancellations, and all of this type of stuff. Last year, there was a montage of absolute chaos when it came down to flights. It was around, I don't know whether it was Christmas time or 4th of July, but it was a major thing where Southwest Airlines could not get none of the flights to operate. 800 flights were canceled all on the same day, and everybody was stuck at the airport. It's your season to take off, and the enemy's trying to stop you from moving forward. So he will do anything and everything to take you out at this juncture. The storm and or this boat blowing up was an attempt to take you out before you crossed into. Because see, spiritually, you already done did it. It's done. It's complete. But you have to physically cross over. Some of you have to fly. Some of you have to boat. Some of you have to do whatever it is that the Lord is telling you. Some of you may be taking a plane, train, automobile. I don't know. But you're going to have to cross over into that thing. God's going to show you how it needs to be taken care of. But I'm noticing it's an injunction right now. They're even having backups in the passport logs right now. Amy don't want people traveling. There are a couple people I know right now. And there's a young woman, bold for Christ. She just recently left and went to Israel. Before she left, she had all this kind of confusion occur in her transit points. But with that having been said, she had a dream. And I hope she recognizes, and this is my prayer, she recognizes that the dream that she had just after she moved into her apartment is exactly her travel situation that she went through to get to Israel. That was her takeoff point. I believe that dream she had was the same thing in relation to what she went through to Israel. But it was supposed to go smoother. Anyway, so this boat blow up. Everybody's crying and whining. You see a new montage of everybody upset, screaming. Some people, it's a woman asking about her daughter, this, that, and the other. Everybody's looking distraught. You see in the burnt out boat, all this kind of stuff. And here comes the vehicle with this man, and he stops. You see his ATF tag. Now, I want to look this number up real quick. Hold on. Okay. I looked it up. It didn't give me the 0 in the front. It was 0706, but it came up as 706, which came up as a fixed number and 4 found. I don't know quite what that could mean, but that may not be relevant. So I'm just going to leave that as it is. But I knew I wanted to look it up just in case it was. So Officer Doug Carlin approaches the scene, and he's just taking in everything he's seeing. He blows his breath into his hands, which to me represents, why are you showing me the Ruach of God, Jesus? The breath of God. What does that have to do with this situation? When you're in a moment of absolute chaos. As the season is changing, a lot of things will tear up, destroy. It'll look like a catastrophe around your life. Because God's got to rip up, root up, take out, prune, pull up, and remove everything that is not of Him. And sometimes He has to do it strategically and quick. Jonah had to be thrown off the boat in order for what God needs to be done to be done. A lot of you, because depending on how much pruning and stuff that you've gone through previously will determine how heavy your warfare is in this transition, because when God's ready to transition you, it will either be lighter or heavier. If you've done the work and gone through several rotations of the cycles of the fixed amount, there you go with the fixed amount of trials and tests, and you've gone and you passed your test and you went through and you went through and you went through, 9 times out of 10 your crossover point ain't gonna be as uncomfortable as it would be for most. But those that have had a lot of sin in their life, and some of y'all that's your kingdom spouse had a lot of sin in his life, and maybe this is why I'm also seeing this particular character. This character is walking through chaos. Your God-ordained spouse walked through a hell of a lot of chaos in the midst of God ripping up the things that He had to rip up in order to take it out of your God-ordained spouse's life, in order for the manifestation of what it is that God wanted in his life to be manifest. So with that happening, he's surrounded in destruction. Everything that he built with his own hands without God's approval, anything that was built with wrong idols, wrong spirits, and wrong things, he's going to tear it to shreds. Rip it up, allow it to blow up. Which brings me back to Deanna Nev's word that the last attack was the last attack because of the fact that God's going to blow this thing up. He's going to take it out and He's going to destroy it. He's going to blow it up for your benefit. So He's watching the destruction that has occurred. So you see another montage where you don't see Him speak for a long period of time. It's a whole lot of music playing, but He don't say nothing. You're seeing Him go in. They're bringing the bodies out. People are walking around looking confused. All this kind of stuff. He's coming. He's meeting the other agents. He's talking to them. Then He goes and He's on the boat. And they're pulling in bodies from the water. All this kind of stuff. Some of you God-ordained spouses, I'm being reminded of a word Queen Alita did. 3-4 years ago, because I think the word was from 4 years ago, but I saw it 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. And in the word, she talked about there's going to be a major incident, but I think this was for your God-ordained spouse, and it needed to occur. It had to happen, and it looks like a disaster, but before you were allowed to walk into their life in the physical, this natural disaster had to occur, because everything had to be pulled down, torn down, pulled out, raided, removed, all this kind of stuff in that person's life. And to them, it looked like an explosion just took place. And they've just been looking at the destruction. The bodies. What are the bodies? For them, some of them is the women they were running around with. For some of them, it's the situations they were in. Some of them, it's the old relationships that had to die. Some of them, it's things. Come on, God. Bodies in the water. Dead. Blown up. Charred. Destroyed. God had to have it be that way because it's a mess. And they're in the mess and they're looking at it like, oh my God, look at this. I already went through that part. As he's observing the area, he's underneath one of the bridges and he finds a piece of plastic with infused wires to it. And he makes a call to tell them he needed the cameras for that area. This is a bridge point. And it's going to make sense. Bridge point is going to make a lot of sense later on. God's been doing a spiritual bridge between you and your God ordained spouse, period, point blank. So they're trying to desperately investigate what the heck has happened in their life and how it got to this point. So they're the investigator trying to figure out, how did my life blow up like this? What caused this? So he finds this piece of blue fabric, and it is like a plastic fabric with the wire attached to it. And he tries to find the rest of the cops. He goes to an authority. Some of you God ordained spouses went to people that they thought were authority figures unto them in order to seek out clarity for what they were going through. So they're having conversations and trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? Who's this? And he comes in and he's like, who's in charge of this investigation? Some of your God ordained spouses, this is what the Lord is showing me in this moment. Your God ordained spouse literally came into contact with people who realized they were about to go up. They're about to take off, they're about to transition, and they're about to change. But these people have been observing from the outside, and they're whispering to one another. He's asking who the authority figure is. Your God ordained spouse was asking for help because he didn't realize what was about to happen to him. So he's asking for help, and everybody's pointing at everybody else because they don't understand. What they understand is this man's about to go up. So just like I told you in the previous word about the checkmate, these people are trying to position themselves to checkmate him in order to prevent him from moving forward. So he comes in and he carries information. Your God ordained spouse is not stupid. He's intellectually quite smart. And he's trying to put the pieces together. So they have to send a spirit of confusion into his mind in order, by bringing witchcraft, confusion, all these kinds of things against this man's mind. Battlefield of the mind. But God gives us what? Power, love, and a sound mind. All these things are coming against this man's mind. So I'm going to finish this here by saying, because I'm at the end of this part of the note. He has to go through and do an order check and all this kind of stuff in order to find out the names at the bridge. And somebody comes in, he has to go back out and check. He found a solvent. He brings that back to them. When he brings it back to them, he shows them that this was in fact a homicide. Because at first they were thinking it was a natural disaster and it was an incident that could be observed, but this was actually a bombing. So there's information your God ordained spouse carries that is important to this investigation. Because of his wisdom, he's thinking a little bit farther ahead, but the enemy knows that, so he's trying to bring him into confusion. I'm going to come back in the next one because I'm about to run out of space. Bye-bye.